Today I'm going to walk you through 5 easy vegan breakfasts I make all the time. They're delicious, high in protein, quick to make, and we're going to get started with a spiced chickpea scramble. If I had planned ahead, I would be sanctimoniously telling you why you simply must cook dried chickpeas from scratch for this recipe. Alas, I myself did not cook any dried chickpeas, so we are using canned chickpeas. Don't worry, this dish is still going to taste fantastic. Once you've dried them off, give the chickpeas a few pulses in your food processor. You're going for small crumbles, not a puree. We're not making hummus, though I am not opposed to smashing some hummus for breakfast. And since canned chickpeas are pretty flavorless on their own, I put together a quick spice blend. Garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, coriander, a little cayenne pepper, salt, and black pepper. Grab a large frying pan and set it over medium-high heat with some olive oil. Once that's shimmering, go ahead and add your chickpeas. These need about 8 minutes, and you don't have to stir very often, so I'm using this downtime to make a quick yogurt sauce. A yogurt sauce is the easiest way to add flavor and creaminess to almost any savory recipe, and this version could not be simpler. Just add a few squeezes of lemon juice to your creamy coconut yogurt, salt and pepper to season, and some Aleppo pepper or any chili flakes you like. And I also used this time to thinly slice a few garlic cloves. The chickpeas are looking nice and golden, which means it's time for our spices. If your pan is dry, you want to add a bit more oil to ensure the spices don't burn. Oh, and a pinch of kala namak if you want a funky savoriness. This is the same stuff I put in my tofu scramble recipe to give it that eggy flavor. Remove the chickpeas from the pan and lower the heat to medium. We're just briefly sauteing the sliced garlic until it turns slightly golden, and then we'll add in a generous helping of baby spinach. This is about 4 ounces or 115 grams. I love finding ways to sneak in greens at breakfast because it is a great way to start the day on a strong note, and you get to feel superior to pretty much everyone else. For plating, I like to make this feel a little fancy by spreading the yogurt sauce on the bottom of a plate, give it a nice swoosh, and then top it with the garlicky spinach and scrambled chickpeas. If you've got some sauerkraut or pickled onions on hand, those make a great topping here, and you can serve as is or with leftover rice or grains in your fridge. I have some amazing whole wheat seeded sourdough from my local bakery today, so I am going with that. Good Lord, this is delicious. It's savory, it's a little salty, it's creamy. It's pretty much everything I want in a weekday breakfast. Another savory high-protein breakfast I love making is this Indian tofu bowl. This might look a little bit like tofu scramble, but has a much different texture and flavor profile. And it is way better than your standard quick vegan breakfast like oatmeal or chia pudding. I use super firm tofu for this recipe because it gets quite meaty and most of the water has been removed, so you don't need to press it. And quick breakfast ideas is what I promised you. One of the quickest ways to prepare this type of tofu is to grate it. Use the side of your box grater with the large holes, and soon enough, you'll end up with these little shreds that look like mozzarella, weirdly enough. If any tofu bits break off, and a few definitely will, you can just slice them very thinly with your knife. The only other thing I need to do is mix together a few Indian spices. And not an Indian spice, but very delicious, nutritional yeast. Now just heat up a tablespoon of olive oil in a nonstick frying pan over medium-high heat. Once it's shimmering, go ahead and add the grated tofu, and don't forget to season it with a bit of salt. Tofu definitely needs salt. Cook undisturbed for 2 minutes, then give it a stir, and repeat that a few more times until the tofu is golden brown and crisps up, about 7 to 8 minutes in total. I'm adding a drizzle of more oil with the spice mixture because 1, ground spices burn easily when they're dry toasted, and 2, spices are fat soluble, so we're going to coax out a lot more flavor this way. Stir almost constantly for about 45 seconds, and that's it. I served the tofu over some leftover brown rice that I reheated in the microwave, but this stuff is also really great on toasted sourdough. To amp up the flavor even more and give it a little sauciness, I served it with a drizzle of coconut yogurt and this tomato achar from Brooklyn Deli. Achar is an Indian pickled condiment that's usually spicy and tangy. This one is made with tomatoes and tamarind, and it is so good. But you can keep it simple and just do yogurt and sauerkraut or pickled onions. I freaking love this one. The tofu is chewy but a little crispy from pan frying it. It's like an Indian explosion of flavors for your taste buds. I think you're gonna love it. When I know I'm gonna have a few busy mornings in a given week, I try to make a batch of my breakfast cookies. Okay, I know, cookies for breakfast does not sound like the nutritious breakfast ideas I sold you at the beginning of this video. But These are quite wholesome, and they have 5 grams of protein per cookie. And they actually taste really good. They're not cardboard cookies, I promise. We'll start off with our egg replacement binder, which is just 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed meal and 5 tablespoons of warm water. Give this a whisk and let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes to gel up. For the dry ingredients, the main thing we're using is old-fashioned rolled oats. While I don't like oatmeal, I don't mind oats themselves. We're also adding unsweetened shredded coconut and a half teaspoon each of baking powder, baking soda, and sea salt. And a little cinnamon, which is not technically in the original recipe, but I figured it would be delicious, and it is. For the wet ingredients, you'll need a generous amount of almond butter, which adds this amazing, rich, nutty flavor. There is no added oil in this recipe, so having a smooth, runny almond butter is essential. If you're scraping from the bottom of the jar, it's not gonna work, just put the jar down. This is also where a digital scale comes in handy, because scraping sticky almond butter out of a measuring cup is very, very annoying. We're gonna add in some pure maple syrup, which is our sweetener, along with the almond butter. This is gonna help bind the oats together. Measure out some pure vanilla extract, or totally miss your measuring spoon. Either way, it's gonna be tasty. And finally, our flax eggs. Look at how much they have gelled up. Whisk all the liquid ingredients together until they're beautifully thick. And now for your viewing pleasure, a very sultry pour shot. Give everything a stir with a spatula until it's well combined and feels kind of like, well, cookie dough. All right, now it's time to add in your cookie mix-ins, which is where you get to be creative. I like to use 2 different types of nuts or seeds. I typically go with pepitas and hemp seeds because they're both high in protein, but you could also do some chopped walnuts or almonds if you like, and then some dried fruit for a little extra sweetness. These are cranberries. You can use any dried fruit you like, or if you are like my partner Max and you want something a little more indulgent, you could do mini chocolate chips. Grab 2 sheet pans and line them with parchment paper. I aim for a heaping 2 tablespoons of dough per cookie, which is what you get when you overfill a 2 tablespoon cookie scoop. But if you are a bit obsessive, shall we say, like myself, you can measure each one to make sure it's 35 to 40 grams. Since these aren't traditional cookies with flour and butter, they don't really spread in the oven, so I like to give each cookie a little love tap to flatten them out just a bit before depositing them in the hot oven. They need 18 to 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius, and just a quick 5-minute cool before you can dig in. These are such a great make-ahead option. You can grab them before going to work, when you're taking a flight, and they freeze really great, so you can always have breakfast cookies on hand, which having cookies for breakfast whenever you want is kind of one of life's greatest joys. Next up, I'm going to show you a variation of something I eat at least once a week because it is so quick, and it's a really easy way to build a balanced breakfast. And that is a loaded lavash wrap. The first thing I'm doing is grabbing a block of super firm tofu. Again, no pressing required, so you save time, and my other time-saving hack is to shave the tofu thinly with a Y-shaped vegetable peeler. If you don't have a peeler like this, just slice it as thinly as you can with a sharp knife. You need just a drizzle of olive oil in a nonstick frying pan, medium-high heat, and then add your tofu slices, season with a pinch or 2 of salt, and basically just wait until they turn golden brown. It'll take a couple minutes, and then you'll flip and repeat. Similar to the box grater method, the tofu cooks up super quickly because it is so thin, and you get this nice crispy texture. Now grab a lavash wrap. I love these ones from Trader Joe's, which are made with just a couple of ingredients, but I do recommend warming them up in the microwave first for 15 to 20 seconds to make them a bit softer and easier to roll. I always start my wrap off with a creamy sauce as the base. My go-to option when I don't have a homemade sauce on hand is coconut yogurt. Make sure you're using a creamy, thick yogurt like one of these, because if you use a thinner yogurt, the wrap will get soggy. Drizzle on your favorite hot sauce or chili sauce. I'm currently obsessed with these 2. For my second main protein source, I'm using some pre-cooked lentils. I will be the first to admit that lentils cooked from scratch would be better, but we're going for a 10-minute breakfast and I don't have cooked lentils in my fridge at the moment, so these will do. I also like to add whatever veggies I have in the fridge because starting the day with vegetables is an easy win. My go-to for this wrap is broccoli sprouts, which are so nutrient dense, and I also had some of these pre-steamed beets, so I sliced up a couple of those. You can just squeeze some lemon juice on top of this, but I like to add some leftover brine from an empty jar of sauerkraut. It's loaded with healthy gut bacteria, plus it's deliciously tangy and salty. Now a drizzle of olive oil, freshly cracked black pepper, and some actual sauerkraut. I think that's our third source of probiotics in this recipe, which is another reason I love this dish. Layer that crispy tofu on top and roll this baby up. Lavash wraps actually don't close like a regular wrap or tortilla, so do your best and then secure each end with a toothpick so the fillings don't all fall out. This might not be very traditional for a lot of you, but to me it is the perfect weekday breakfast. You've got your protein, healthy fats, complex carbs, even vegetables, and it takes 5 or 10 minutes to make, so A+ in my book. Our next recipe is a smashed edamame toast, like smashed avocado toast, but it's high in protein and less basic. I'm just gonna quickly defrost my edamame by covering it with boiling water for a few minutes. Many frozen edamame packages, at least the ones sold here in the US, will tell you to boil the edamame for a few minutes, even though they already cooked it before packaging it. Personally, I don't bother cooking it, and I haven't had any problems so far. The only other prep we need to do is slice open a gorgeously ripe avocado, and roughly chop a few cloves of garlic and a serrano pepper. This adds medium heat, at least for me, but you can remove the white membranes on the inside for a milder heat. Just to ensure that we don't get any large chunks of garlic or serrano pepper in the dip, I'm gonna blend these up first. Once these are minced, drop in your edamame and squeeze in half of the avocado. Pro tip, store the remaining half in a container with a sliced onion, and that will keep it fresh for longer. Now a 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of tahini for some nutty indulgence and to help everything bind together. So now we've got our healthy fats, lots of protein, some pungent heat, but we need a few more flavorings. First, soy sauce or tamari for that savory depth of flavor, and a splash of toasted sesame oil to complement the sesame flavors in the tahini. We're also gonna add a big handful of cilantro, just get rid of any thicker stems first, and the zest of 1 large lime, plus the juice, which is 2 to 3 tablespoons. This needs just a few quick blends. I prefer keeping it a little chunky instead of making it completely smooth. It's just a little more interesting that way. Some seeded whole grain bread is a good way to add extra protein and fiber to this meal. When I don't have bread from my local bakery, I like to keep this stuff in my freezer. By the way, this mash will stay good in the fridge for about 7 days, so you can eat it all week long. And now for a few of my favorite toppings. A sprinkle of hemp seeds to get in a little bit more protein, some broccoli sprouts or microgreens, and pickled onions for a pop of color. She's very pretty. I've created a free PDF guide that has all of today's recipes in printable form. Just head to the description box below to download it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!